Lambat nak lah.
Ya.
Apa? Lari. Masuk.
Tak tahu siapa.
Dia tak boleh, dia tak ada.
Okay, everybody say thank you. Thank you.
Oh, ini lagi okey.
Very senang. Tak payah hati.
Jom kita toilet dulu lah. Sini. Pelik dulu tak bawah. Sini lah betul ambil.
Abang tembok.
Ya. Tak ambil sini.
Wah, abang bakar biasa. Orang ambil kat sini.
Tapi tak pernah naik motor. Dia tak actually tak suka sangat. Macam ni. Ayam macam gelap. Macam pergi China. Cakap pasal ini.
Lagi dia ke tepi ni ya. Kan sering dia terpatung.
Candid je, candid je. Okey. Dah. Amin ambil lagi.
Lagi tu. Senyum kambing.
Bin dengan bin.
Mama tak dapat.
Apa yang pertama lah.
Kat belakang tak dapat lah.
Rosia.
Ada jalan. Just everyone here, semua orang jump.
Okay, nombor 2, nombor 3 depan, 4, 5 belakang.
Macam ada nombor.
Masuk je.
Kami lah.
Apa lagi nak tunggu ni? Okay, dah orang nak jalan dah.
Kasih dah dia.
Okay.
Okey.
Okay dah, okay go ahead.
Nanti kami kat gambar.
Okey, orang tolong ambil gambar. Okey.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, klik.
Senjata saja dekat jatuh.
Senjata sulit.
Dia belum settle lagi.
Eh, fan. USB charging fan.
Can learn about nature and wildlife. Can.
Yeay.
Boleh charge.
Chargeable.
Can. Wait, I only have. No worries, I give you. You have the yellow one. You want the green one?
Yellow one.
Yeah, I only have limited. I don't have limited and no more already.
Take one lah. Take one. Nah. So very nice. Got extra.
Thank you. Yeah, can. I'll come to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Your OBS Ekoni and OBS Ubin was different.
Yeah, all the same. It's just different location only.
Same activities ah.
Similar activities, sir.
For those who are joining just one, okay, the one heritage walk. Okay, if you are here to join just one for this morning walk, please gather the signboard area.
So, in that same year, in 1959, that was when the family decided to move from Pulau Tekong to Pulau Ubin, where the family would call Ubin their home for the next 20 to 30 years. So, later on, in this tour that you're following me on for the next 3 hours, hopefully the sun will be kind, because I also will not tahan this much. But over the next 3 hours, I will be showing you around the kampong, and I'll be sharing with you the stories in which my mom has shared with me, as well as all the other Malay residents. The journey today, I hope, will be an informational one. I hope you learn something new. But before we proceed, can I just have a quick show of hands? How many of you are here for your first time? Okay, we got lots of first timers, so I do have a responsibility as a descendant to make sure that you feel welcome and at the same time that you can be engaged while learning about the history and the stories and the cultures of our people. So now, the first thing that we will talk about is where you have been gathering. That is the assembly area. This assembly area is an area where you assemble. But the assembly area in the past used to be a basketball court. And this basketball court used to belong to this particular structure to the right. If you can see, there is a very big leaf pasted at the front. Why? It's because this is now the NParks Volunteer Hub. For context-wise, NParks is now the central managing agency of this island. You could say that they are like an informal MP, but they do have a former MP. Last time they were under East Coast, now they are under Pasir Ris Changi because of different needs. So now they are under a different constituency. Was that supposed to mean? I don't know. I cannot election. This is not election rally. So again, what I'm going to share now, just keep in mind, NParks does have a part to play in addressing the community's needs. But later on, I do invite you to see for yourself how these needs are being met. I cannot say much. I'm shouting already. They all pasang telinga, they can hear me already. So, context-wise, this was the Pulau Ubin Community Center. The Pulau Ubin Community Center used to be around for a very long time. And this, according to what some people have shared, was among the first few places where you could find a television. So imagine the television set is only how big back then, and how many people don't even have TVs. So because of that, people will crowd around this area. Unfortunately, again, because of the interest of time, I see your understanding that I will have to skip certain parts already. But this will concern about the main village where all of you have passed through to reach here. In the main village, towards or no, there's a lorry, okay? I don't know where the lorry will go. Towards the left, you will have seen a very big structure. That big structure is based on a pillar. That is your wayang stage. The wayang stage on Ubin is believed to be one of the only two remaining wayang stages left in Singapore. The other one, if I'm not mistaken, is around the Rochor region. So the wayang stage is a very special and important place for the Chinese community because this is where you get your entertainment. This is where you get to watch your shows. Not only do the Chinese enjoy, the Malay people act like they enjoy because they come, they watch, they don't understand anything. But again, entertainment was so easy back then. The wayang stage would be used during Tua Pekong Festival and many other major Chinese celebrations. The whole area, if you remember, was quite big. And whenever you have these festivals, you cannot walk through without saying excuse me or you langgar people. So because of that, I want you to just make a guess. In the past, in 1960s, how many people do you think lived on Pulau Ubin? Just throw a number. 3,000, another number? 4,000, other numbers? 1,000. 900, wow, got 100. So, unfortunately, this is not the price is right. There's no price to be given to the closest. But based on the old consensus that we could gather, the figures used to range between 2,000 to 5,000. For the Malay, also, which I will refer to them as the Orang Pulau, the Ubin Orang Pulau community used to peak at around 300 to 400. The rest would of course consist of our Chinese friends. So, now, there are only 20 active residents left on the island, which means all of you outnumber the active residents that we have today. So keep that image in mind about how much has changed over the past few years. So now, for Pulau Ubin, can anybody make a guess? What does Pulau Ubin mean? What does the name mean? Quarry. Okay, so this very smart kid actually gave the answer. Although technically not quarry, it is named after granite because Ubin is the short form for Batu Jubin. Batu Ubin is Malay for granite rocks. And that's because this island has many granite rocks. And that is why, in fact, right behind over there, or even at the map behind, you can even take a look. You'll be able to see many quarries that were scattered around. Because of these quarries and the fact that there was so much granite around, Pulau Ubin literally played a part in our national development. Because the granites that were extracted from here can be found in the first few HDB flats in Singapore, could also be found to build the foundations of the causeway, could also be found in the lighthouse that Malaysia and Singapore just keep talking about it even though it's ours. So, again, this is not election rally, but I want to bring across this point. The granites, again, that were found and extracted from Pulau Ubin played an important role in our literal national development. So again, for that particular area, earlier on, I received a question, where do the islanders get their medical attention? So, whoa!
I know you're tired.
Okay, thank you.
No water?
Later I need to take. If anybody of you pass by, if you notice there was this almost modern-ish looking coffee shop. The name, if I'm not mistaken, is Two Bro Nanyang Cafe. Two Bro Nanyang Cafe. We will also remember it as house number 42. House number 42 is where the Pulau Ubin clinic used to be. So if anybody needed medical attention, that will be the spot for them to go. But you don't have a doctor 24/7. The doctor will only come once a week. So according to what my mom has said, this doctor, very high possibility, comes from the closest medical facility. Where is that? Changi Hospital. So back then it's not old, back then it's not haunted, back then is what it was like today. So in the hospital, that is where they will receive their help in case of life-threatening emergencies. If let's say they want to use a sampan, they will also be able to go there. The next thing that I want to share is that when they are outstationed for that once a week, they will make their rounds to two particular kampongs in Pulau Tekong first, before they come to Pulau Ubin. After that, I don't know, I never asked. So just keep in mind, there used to be a clinic here. You will have a doctor here, but not 24/7. So this hopefully gives you a reflection of the kind of medical kind of life that we had. Though that's why also for our elderly, our seniors, if they say they can take for jamu, they go take for jamu. If they want to take the traditional Chinese medicine, you take your TCM. Because we need to also acknowledge, within nature, there are natural remedies. Even if scientists say this is nonsense, but if the people are still alive, let that be your answer. So now, I have technically covered most of it. The last thing I want to share within this part is if that right behind, you see that green barricade, right behind that to the right, there is now an open field. But in the past, that used to be the Bin Kiang School. The Bin Kiang School is also known as the Pulau Ubin Chinese Primary School. So for our Chinese community, they will attend to that school. And if I'm not mistaken, the school was built in 1952. And classes continue to exist till 1980. But the structure had to be torn down in 2000. So in the past, just keep in mind, later on we will pass through that. That is where the school used to be. Quick. I'm sorry, let me take a breath. Apa naman nanti? One last thing before I take water, ha? Also, share with you the Malay primary school as well. So the history will also be shared. And now, may I seek your permission to drink water? Sure. So when I drink water, I will take my bag. Thank you. What tree are you underneath right now? Those who know, don't say. Hey. Anything is sir? Okay. The answer is already out. This is a durian tree.
Oh no.
So, how are you able to identify a durian tree? One of the ways is to look at the color of its leaves. As you can see, the underside of the leaves, it is a much more copperish color. So again, on my hand also you can see, it's a very copperish color. But on the top side of the leaf, it is a much more vibrant green color. This is one way, a bend. So, the first half can go to the front, the second half, please go to the back. Please clear the road for the bend. Thank you. So, if it's durian season on Pulau Ubin, if you're curious, based on what the residents have shared, it can happen sometime in July to August and another round in November to December. So that's just something for you to consider if you happen to come across the island during those seasons. So later on, when we go to the Malay kampong, maybe you already know the answer why. It is named Kampong Sungai Durian. So let's move on. This is the leaf that they use to wrap it up. Another thing that the Ubin orang Pulau used to do with this leaf is that, let's say you want to serve a dish, you don't need your plate, you just harvest this. So this is again to show the form of sustainability that the Ubin orang Pulau used to have back in the day. So we are the OGs of sustainability. So again, we get to see how when they want to eat something, they just harvest from nature and then they put it back to nature, so that you could see this is how, for us as the Ubin orang Pulau, our relationship in maintaining the balance of our natural ecosystem. Okay, next. Drink water. Everybody also drink water. In front of you is me, but behind me is an example of a traditional Chinese kampong house. But of course, this one has already been vacated. So, how are you able to tell that this used to belong to a Chinese person? It's really based on the architecture of the kampong house. If you can see for yourself right in front, are you able to see that it seems to be very symmetrical? So the reason why these kampong houses are built symmetrically is because of feng shui. So for our Chinese community, you know feng shui better than me. And if I am wrong in my explaining, I am so sorry. But to the best of my knowledge, because of this feng shui understanding, it is also to harness the sense of energy, of balance with your environment. And also, when you're able to restore this sense of balance with the environment, you can also restore this sense of balance with your families and your relationships. But this is me speaking as a Malay, so if this is wrong, I am so sorry. But please feel free to correct me, but in private lah. So, right behind, this is where you find your main house. But to the right, for this house, for example, this is where you find your kitchen annex. But you could also find for other Chinese kampong houses, the kitchen annex can also be at the left, or it could also be at the back. So, based on the research that was done by one of the professors in NUS that studies in architecture, his name is Dr. Imran bin Tajuddin. He is a lecturer in NUS Department of Malay Studies as well as Architecture. Based on one of the sharings that I've listened to him for, there were instances in the past where Chinese carpenters would be hired by the Malays to build their houses in accordance to feng shui as a respect to the Chinese culture. Likewise, Malay carpenters were hired by the Chinese. Wait, vice versa, understand? I've done this 4 times and I still screw up. I'm so sorry. But just understand, vice versa. This is to show the cultural understanding, the cultural competence, and the sense of cultural exchange between our two ethnic groups. Later on, we will go to a Malay kampong house and I invite you to see what could the difference be between a Malay and a Chinese house. But I also understand by some of you that there's actually an ongoing activity at that Malay house So because we are larger than an election rally, I will have to see how to approach this because we also don't want to disturb them carrying the activities. If we have to skip again, I seek your forgiveness that we'll have to skip that part because I didn't plan in advance with them. I didn't know that they're doing this. But let's hope for the best. Dominated by the Malay orang Pulau. The other kampongs that you could have found is Kampong Surau, Kampong Tanjung, Kampong Sungai Bamap, Kampong Nodin, and Kampong Bahru. These were the different areas in the island where you would have found a sizable Malay population. Uniquely, geographically speaking, we are all towards the east. The Chinese community, they were at the main village earlier, and to the west. It's just natural like that. There's nothing in between. So, Kampong Sungai Durian, the row of houses that you see today are the last few kampong houses, not just for the Ubin Orang Pulau, but for the Orang Pulau community in all of Singapore. For those of you who have attended Hari Orang Pulau 2 weeks ago, you would know that there are many different islands in Singapore, offshore islands, where you would have found the different types of communities, the Orang Pulau communities and the Orang Laut communities. Again, for the southern islands like Sekijang Pelepah or Lazarus and Sekijang Bendera, which is St. John's. Those islands used to be filled with communities, but today they are no longer standing. You will not find any sign of life there anymore. Pulau Ubin, for me as a descendant from this island, I must consider my blessings because as compared to our friends from the southern islands, I still can come back here. My mom can still come back here. But for all of our southern islanders, their islands have been reclaimed. Their narratives have changed. For example, Semakau. You know Semakau today as a landfill. But for those who have attended Hari Orang Pulau, you would know that it is not just a landfill, it is a home. It's the same thing for our friends in Sekijang Pelepah, Sekijang Bendera, the 9 different islands that would have made up Jurong Island today, Pulau Bukom, and pretty much many more. So why am I saying this again? Look in front of you. This is the last kampong for us. Our community can only see this now. But I'm also not quite sure if you know, at the same time during Hari Orang Pulau, Channel News Asia released a report that the government is going to modernize Pulau Ubin. There is a possibility, there is a reality that these houses that you see today may not be around within the next 15 or 20 years because we don't know what is the government's plan of modernizing. We don't know if they say we will ensure to keep the rustic charms. But what does rustic charms actually mean? Again, earlier I mentioned who is the central managing agency of Pulau Ubin. Oh, you don't say loud. And parks. So that central managing agency, when it comes to municipal needs, the residents will have to go to them to make sure that their needs can be addressed. But we've also heard, again, sometimes there are challenges and issues to the community staying here. Because of NParks, because they are the central managing agency, we need to also understand and acknowledge, yes, they have the means to govern, we will follow by the rules. But because NParks has taken over Ubin, the Parks and Trees Regulations Act must also be enforced. The Parks and Trees Regulations Act currently, if I were to sum it up, means that you cannot do anything to your natural surroundings. If any of you have ever seen archival photos of kampongs, you would know that around this area, the kampong people will take pride in cleaning up their homes. They will take pride in making sure that everything is open and spacious. What I'm trying to imply here is that today, Pulau Ubin, because of certain rules, because of certain regulations, it starts to look like a secondary forest. But when the kampong people are here, when they still have the abilities to take care of the surroundings, I have seen personally photos that were shared by my mom and all the other residents throughout the past 7 years of my work on Pulau Ubin. I have seen how open, how spacious, everybody could literally see their neighbor's house from each other. So it's something like this today. But again, because you cannot touch certain trees, we face a lot of challenges. There were also instances by residents that said that there needs to repair certain houses will also need approval from NParks. If they did it on their own, without NParks knowledge, they will be asked to tear it down. In terms of reparations, you still need to ask from the government when they themselves were self-sufficient. But now again, I'm just sharing this to sum everything up quickly. We are facing unique challenges. Trying to preserve our cultural heritage is a challenge. And again, I hope I don't sound like I'm bragging, but for the past 7 years, I have been doing my best to share and make sure that these stories are shared. So opportunities like this are quite important for me. So again, thank you. I should save this for the end of the tour, but since it's relevant, I'll do it now. So again, later on, we'll take our first rest inside the drink stall right behind. Then afterwards, for which I will share with you the story of the family that runs that drink stall, which involves his experience during World War II and how he fell in love. So come, let's go.
Sepatu dan tu. Jadi kita kahwin. It's a walking deck.
He received their house for that time, remember?
Yeah, I know. I very blur. I thought, hey, you were there, you run cheap.
But there's also another function using a house fire. It is also for promoting better cross ventilation. When you raise the house a little bit higher, you're able to capture winds of higher velocity. And because of that, it helps to keep the house a little bit cool. For example, also at night, for some of our kampong houses, the floorboards will not be stacked right next to each other. There will be certain gaps and holes in between. So because of this at night in particular, because of the sea breeze, you will come across many instances where the breeze will go through underneath your house and it will keep your body cool. That was a form of aircon. Also, if you notice under the roof, you will also see this open ventilated space. This is also because for our elders, we don't have any scientific knowledge. Okay, sorry, more to this side, please. Again, because of this clash, I think you're understanding that we'll just have to share more about the kampong architecture a little bit further from the house. But yes, so now, where was I? The ventilated space. Because for us, we know hot air rises and cold air sinks. If you notice the roofs of our kampongs, they are always in an A shape. So all the hot air will generally be trapped up there in the roof. So the ventilated spaces is to help to ensure that all this hot air will escape from the house, keeping the house cool. Another reason why houses are built on stilts is to protect your children and protect everyone from dangerous venomous creatures such as your scorpions and snakes. Because the last thing you need is for a snake to go up to the house and say, Assalamualaikum. We don't want that to happen, so because of that, houses are built a little bit higher to protect the homeowners, to protect the families. So, for our kampongs, how do they get their water? Well, correct. That is the answer. You get it from the well. But another one, if you don't have a well, you can also collect it from? No, the rain. So if you notice for this roof also, if you're able to spot, if you can't spot, it's still okay. I will describe to you. You can still find gutters located on the skirts of the roof. When the rain follows down, the texture and the shape of the zinc roof, it will go down, follow through the pipes, and it will be collected in this thing. In Malay, we call it tempayan. But it is also simply your earthenware, your crockery pots, your dragon pots. So again, this is to show our relationship with nature really stems from this. Now, let me just invite you to learn more about the socio-cultural elements behind the different parts of the house. This particular area where the stairs is located in front is known as your veranda, which is also like your front porch. So the veranda is where you would see a display of Malay Orang Pulau hospitality. This is where you're able to see people, where the homeowners would treat and host the visitors. So from there, let's say for example, they want to bring the conversation up a little bit more. They need a little bit more intimate conversation. They will take it up to the next. They want to bring it up to the next level. They will literally bring it up to the next level. They climb up the steps. So if you notice, this particular part of the house does not share the same length and width as the rest of the house. We can say that this part of the house is protruding. In Malay, protruding means menganjung. That is why this part of the house is known as the anjung. The anjung is again just another place for social recreational purposes. Behind, I mentioned earlier, is the rumah panggung, but that is also known as the ibu rumah. Ibu rumah, loosely translated, means to mother house, but it simply refers to the core of the house. If let's say you don't have the veranda, you don't have the anjung, and you don't have the kitchen located at the back, if you only have the ibu rumah, it is still considered and documented as a Malay traditional kampong house. So as I said earlier also, you got your kitchen annex. And so for this house, for example, the kitchen, we have many doors at the back. And we also have a door at the front. Why do we need so many doors? In case of fire, we run, that's one. But also got windows, but can jump lah. But the thing is, we also observe certain customs and traditions based on the doors. For example, the front door is meant for formal purposes. The back door is meant for informal purposes. What is an example of informal purposes? Asking for sugar. For example, you go to your neighbor's house, you can just go through the back door, knock there and say, hey, you got sugar? No, hey, yesterday you asked for sugar, why today you asked for sugar? Because I sick, what? Yeah, so because of that, that is an example of a casual informal purpose. The front door, if it's meant for something very formal, there is this thing in Malay customs. I think I'm too loud. Sorry, can we move to the back? I also don't want to overpower that. And tradition, there is this thing known as merisik. Merisik, if you were to do a Google Translate, it means eavesdropping, but I swear we're not eavesdropping on you. Merisik, it happens when two lovebirds, let's say for example Ahmad and Safia, let's use them as an example. If two lovebirds wanted to really marry each other, they will have to engage in this act known as merisik. What this means is that they will activate a delegation. Meaning, let's say for example Ahmad wants to marry Safia, Ahmad needs to inform his parents and say, I want to marry Safia, her address is this, is such and such. What happens next is Pak Ahmad's parents will activate their siblings and their cousins. So it will not be a surprise if suddenly there is a crowd as big as ours today that suddenly pops up in front of the girl's house. But don't worry, for the girl, she also already activated her delegation. Her 30, 40 over family members are already waiting for them inside the house. So for Mary's sake, what this means is that those two lovebirds that want to get married to each other, they cannot see each other on the day itself. This is supposed to be in accordance to modesty, in accordance to just filial piety. So let's say they've already finally reached here, 30 people outside, 30 people in front, let's get ready for war. The war comes in the terms of poetry. For example, the men's delegations, the representative will go out to the front and say something like this. Kami telah mendengar bahawa di taman ini terdapat sekuntum bunga. Adakah benar? In English, we have heard that within this garden there is a rose. Is that true? In which the person inside can say, we also got daisy and carnation, which one you want? In case there are other doctors that are still single. So what I'm trying to imply here is that when you take a look at this poetic exchange, do you see that whenever they want to talk about the beauty of humans, they must describe the beauty of nature. And because of this, we can sum up our understanding of the Orang Pulau to one simple thing. You cannot separate natural and cultural heritage from each other. But again, our unique circumstance on Pulau Ubin, because it is under the management of NParks, so sorry, to the front for the cyclists. So because of Pulau Ubin, it is under the management of NParks, we tend to, unfortunately, we still tend to see there is a prioritization of one heritage over the other, and it is our natural heritage. If I were to show you any archival photos of this particular area, if I told you, you wouldn't be seeing all these small trunk trees. All of this is spacious. This is to, again, what I've said earlier on, to show that they will always make sure that they can keep their areas clean and spacious. Again, moving back, is also for their safety. You keep things open and clear, you don't have that much tall grass, so that you can see if there's any lurking danger around. So now, we'll move on to the next stop, which is a very special place to my family, because this is where my grandfather and mother used to bond over as well. So let's carry on to the next stop.